Hey everyone, it's me, Dave Barnett, author of Invest Local. You can always follow me on the investlocalbook.com blog. And I'm visiting Fredericton, New Brunswick on business. And as I was driving through Fredericton, I remembered that last week when I was giving that seminar for those new Canadians, for those entrepreneurs, I used Fredericton actually as an example when the question came up, should I buy a business that includes real estate? And I love it when that question comes up. I love to grab my jousting spear and take a run at this windmill, because this is something that small business people are always stuck on, this idea of owning real estate. So they asked the question, and I said without hesitation, no, you should not buy a business that owns real estate. And if you find a business for sale that's a good business that you want to buy, you should make an offer that includes you leasing the building from the seller, and do not buy it. And they were aghast. They thought that I was spewing pure heresy. So I answered their question with another question. I said, why do major drugstore chains, grocery stores, Walmart, Target, hardware stores, why do all of these big major businesses filled with very smart people, why do they lease and not buy? And what makes you think that they are wrong? Because if they're leasing and you're trying to buy, what you're saying is that you're right and they're wrong. So let's take a step back and let's analyze this question of whether a business should own real estate. And we're going to analyze it from a couple of different angles. The first angle that we're going to look at this from is from the point of view of required operating inputs to a business. In my Business Buyer's Secret course, I teach that a business requires three inputs in order to function: a place, people, and capital. So where are you going to conduct your business, serve your customers? This could be a physical location or it could be on the internet. What people are going to do the work? So, you're going to have employees, or you're going to do the work, or you're going to outsource the work to someone else. But it's an input. And the third input is capital. So this is your money. This is capital goods like machinery. Capital to finance inventories, capital to finance receivables. So you need those three things. Over the course of time, businesses can change. They can grow, they can shrink, they can suffer huge changes in their industry and have to make major changes in what they do. And all of those inputs can be easily changed, right? You can buy different goods, buy different machinery, fire staff, hire staff, change them. When a business starts to own real estate instead of leasing, they become captive to that real estate. And I used Fredericton as an example because Fredericton, New Brunswick, for those who aren't familiar, is a city built in a valley. And you can probably think of a city like this somewhere. So 150 years ago, people were settling this area. They traveled by boat largely, goods moved up and down the river, and people established a place, somebody built a bridge, it became a point of trade, and the town was born. And in the beginning, when people wanted to own businesses and things, there was no space for lease, so they had to build. But as time went on, there were choices. And when the era of the shopping mall came, the middle of the valley in Fredericton was full. There were government buildings, office buildings, businesses, houses, etc. So when the shopping malls came, They went outside the valley. They went, as they say in Fredericton, to the top of the hill. So up at the top of the hill, there's a couple of really large shopping centers. And then in the last few years, of course, you get your big box stores developing. And now there's even a new sort of power center type place filled with big box stores where the Costco is. So when those new shopping centers were built, all those family-owned mom-and-pop businesses that were downtown, they didn't move to the shopping center. They didn't move up the hill. Why? Well, they owned the building. So the real estate trapped them, okay? Got them stuck in a place with poor economic prospects. And as the customers started to leave them and go to the merchants that were in the shopping center, they became less and less economically viable, probably to the point where moving just wasn't an option anymore for them. And almost all of them have closed. There's one independent grocer left downtown Fredericton, and many of the new little boutiques and businesses that exist in Fredericton have evolved over the last decade or so, and they're all in leased places anyway. So the real estate trapped those merchants and reduced their options and eventually led to their demise. If they had been leasing those places in downtown Fredericton and they saw what was happening, the customers are leaving, everyone wants to go to the shopping center, all the customers are going to the top of the hill, everyone wants to park their car right in front of the store and walk right in. At the end of their lease, they simply would have given notice that they weren't renewing, and they would have packed up their store and moved it up the hill. As simple as that. So when a business owns real estate, you're confining your inputs, you're confining your choices. When we examine the case of the large companies, the big grocers and drugstores and people like Costco and Walmart, there's two things at play. Number one, they're trying to operate a business for maximum return on investment. Number two, they know that retail patterns change over time. So most of these big stores lease a building on what's called a triple net lease, which means that they are responsible for snow removal, they're responsible for repairs, they're responsible for property taxes, etc. They know that they're paying out the same amount of money every month likely that they would on a mortgage. So why don't they buy the building? Why don't they buy? And the key is the down payment. The down payment on most commercial buildings typically is 35%, could be 40%. That money is probably the same amount of capital that's required to fill the store with merchandise. So let's look at this from the point of view of an executive over at Walmart. He says, I want to open a new store, and I basically have to choose between, and let's say I've got $1 million of capital. So if I want to own the real estate, that means that I either have to find $1 million to put as a down payment on the building and $1 million to fill the store with inventory, or I have to build a store that's half the size if I need to put down money for both. But if I lease, I don't have to put down a down payment, I just have to fill the store with inventory. Now let's think about that inventory. The inventory in a store could turn over every 30 days. In retail, you can have gross margins, starting at, 20%, going up to 100%, sometimes even more. So would it make more sense to apply your capital in something where it'll turn over every 30 days with a 20 to 100% markup? Or does it make sense to tie up your capital into something like a building, which, if you're lucky, is going to go up in value by 2 or 3% a year? Clearly, you can make better returns on your capital by investing in the inventory, not the real estate. Second big thing, the guy who's opening up the new Walmart or whatever it is also knows that retail patterns change over time. So what is a hot shopping district right now in 2014 is unlikely to be a hot shopping district in 2034, 20 years from now, right? So what they do is they sign a lease for 10 years with 2 options to extend for 5 years each. They know they've got the location locked down now for 20 years if they want it, but they've got the liberty after 10 years to walk away from it. So flexibility. Let's examine the question from the point of view of personal finances. So if I'm a business owner or a business buyer or an entrepreneur, I'm looking at investing in a business. A business can be risky. If I buy a business that owns real estate, then I'm actually getting into 2 different businesses. I'm getting into whatever the business is at hand, let's say dry cleaning, but I'm also getting into the business of commercial real estate. So in the business of commercial real estate, if I was going to get into that business, would it make sense for me to put all my eggs in one basket and buy one building with one tenant? That'd be pretty risky, wouldn't it? It would make far more sense to have multiple units, so I had diversified income, right? Well, if you apply that reasoning to a business that owns its building, you've made matters even worse. Because what you've got is a business which is risky in and of itself, and you've got an investment in commercial real estate with one tenant. But from your own personal point of view, you've got now 2 major assets in your life dependent upon the same revenue stream. Because the customers of the business have to feed the business and feed the mortgage on the commercial real estate. If something happens, if something happens to the clientele and they stop coming to you, you will lose the business and the building. 2 assets gone out the window. I always say to people in my classes, if you're so excited about the prospects of real estate, invest in real estate. Just diversify your income streams. Buy a business, lease a location for your business, take that money that would normally be the down payment on the commercial property, and go buy yourself a 6, 8, 10, 12 unit apartment building. Now you've got your 2 assets with independent revenue streams. And if something happens to the clientele of your business and they go away for whatever reason, new competitor, change in economic activity, you don't know what can happen to a business. Let's say you lose your customers, you lose your revenue. Over there at the apartment building, you got different people. They're going to work in different places. They're bringing home their own paychecks. Different revenue stream protects that asset. It's diversification. So, I mean, we had a little meandering discussion there. I looked at it from a couple different points of view. But essentially, in a business, you need to keep your options open so you can react to things that happen in the marketplace. I only ever recommend buying real estate when you have a business that is totally mature, that has no prospects for growth, and you can't see it changing at all in the next 20 years. And even then, I would be hesitant. If I had the money, I would still be more inclined to go buy other real estate to diversify my income stream. Anyway, if you've enjoyed listening to my video, you want to see more stuff, go to the blog, investlocalbook.com. You can buy my book there, Invest Local, as well as download a packet of my free business finance articles that I've written over the years. And if you ever want to talk to me in person, you can reach me on Clarity. I'll put all the links down below. Thank you very much. See you later.